All right, we're back. Sorry for another late episode. I got the flu and yeah, I've been out of it for a while, but we're back. So, let's create a new folder. Call it projectiles. And we're going to want to go into the sprite for our bullet. So the first bullet we're going to do is for the polar star. Just because, the polar star, it's kind of classic, right? So we're going to want to go down to weapons, go to bullet, open it up under the sprite editor. And we're going to want to use the left facing one because the default for the gun is left facing. And make sure that the pivot is right center. There we go. So then when it spawns, it's going to spawn right there. Make sure to hit apply. We'll close it out. And let's create some new scripts. So under scripts and guns, we're going to want to create two new scripts called iShootable and another one called projectile. And the reason we're having two of these is because iShootable is just going to be an interface class for anything that can be shot, and a projectile is going to be for most bullets, which are just going to be basic projectiles. So iShootable, you're going to want to delete everything, and it's going to be really simple. First of all, get rid of mono behavior. Make sure that this is an interface, and we're going to want to say void shoot. And game object, get game object. Really simple. It's just, this is what's going to be called when our object is shot, and get game object is just, our fur. So under projectile, we're going to want to inherit from the interface iShootable. All right. So it's red because it wants us to implement the interfaces, so we'll just do that. We can delete these throws. Get game object, we're just going to return game object, super simple. And shoot, we're going to worry about that in a sec. So we're going to want some public values, so public float speed and public float range. And then we're going to want a reference to our player, a vector3 for the direction, and a float time. And the reason that this isn't public is because we're going to figure it out based on the speed and the range. What else? We're going to want a public layer mask for what is hittable. We're going to want a reference to our sprite render, and that should be good for now. So under shoot, we're going to say sprite render equals get component, sprite render. And you'd think that we'd do this under start, but because shoot is going to be called when this is instantiated, we're just going to do it here. Later on, we might expedite this process when we get into object pooling, but for now, we're going to keep it simple. Player is just going to be the player instance. And also, I don't know if we honestly have to do that because this is a 2D game. It's not super necessary to optimize it completely perfectly, but we can just see what the performance is like and play it by ear from there. Direction is going to equal general dot direction to vector of the player. Transform dot Euler angles. We're going to want to rotate it based on the direction, right? So we're going to say vector3 dot forward because we want the z to be rotated times mathf dot rad 2 degree times mathf dot atan2 of negative direction dot y, negative direction dot x. And that's just, that's just a basic arctan function. We're just going to get our direction and figure out how much we should rotate based on that. So if y is 1 and x is 0, then that means we're facing up. Like the tangent is going to give us, half a pi radian, which is going to multiply out to be 90 degrees. Sweet. Yeah, and the other thing we want to do is we want to set time to be range divided by speed. We're going to want an update function. And under update, we're going to say time subtracts time.delta time every frame, transform dot position plus equals direction times speed times time.delta time. This is just really basic projectile code, right? If time is less than 0, then we're going to want to die. And we're going to write that function right now. Oh, wait, actually, I want this to be public, just so we can call it from somewhere else if we need to. Public void die. So what are we going to want? We're going to want sprite renderer dot enabled. It's going to be false. And then this dot enabled is going to be false. And that's pretty much what we have to do. Oh, capitalize that. Let me just... There we go. So let's go back to the gun controller. And we're going to want a new private void for shooting. Private void shooting. If input dot get button down fire 2, then we're going to say, we need the prefab for it. Yeah, we're gonna need the prefab for that. So let's go back to gun and let's create a new item here. Call it public game object shootable prefab. Sweet. The reason it's a game object instead of like an iShootable is just because it's gonna make it more simpler when we have to instantiate it, and then when we instantiate it, we'll treat it as an iShootable. So under gun controller, down here, protect get button fire 2, we're going to say game object shootable object equals instantiate gun dot shootable prefab gun transform dot dot position quaternion dot identity. Sweet. Now we want to treat it as an iShootable. So iShootable equals shootable object dot get component iShootable. Shootable object or shootable dot shoot. Sweet. Okay. So let's actually get to shooting. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a new object for the projectile. Let's call it polar star bullet 01. And it's called 01 because this is going to be the first level of it. So under prefabs, under projectiles, let's create a new folder, call it polar star. Under polar star, we'll drag, actually first, let's actually make it. So give it a sprite renderer, and we're going to want to choose that sprite. So that was under bullet. It's going to be this one. Remember, it's the left facing one. And as you can see, it's positioned accordingly and it's working great. For the layer, we're going to want a new layer actually called player projectiles. And we're going to want to put this baby on there. And let's give it a projectile. So for the speed, I'm going to say 3 speed and 3 range for now. Those numbers are completely random. but we'll figure that out later and see if it's right or not. Actually, I'm gonna make the speed super low, like 1, just so we can see if it's working right in game, and it'll move slower, so like we'll know if its direction and everything is right. So then we're gonna want to drag that under here as a prefab, delete it from here, go to guns, Polar Star, and then for the shootable prefab, we'll drag that in there. So now if we play the game, oh, we have the missile launcher right now. Let's go under player, go to holster, and change the gun to Polar Star. Let's see what it looks like. Nothing is happening. I know what's wrong. We never actually did shooting. Oh, I shouldn't say that. We just want to call it from update. Alright. Now if we play it, and we hit the fire button, it shoots out very slowly, and it goes up. Ooh, wow, that is very slow. Yeah, but we're shooting alright. So, couple things we're going to need to do, and the direction seems to be perfectly right too. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is set the speed to like 5. Let's see how that works. Okay, that's better. Still a little bit slow, but it's better. The direction still seems to be great. One thing I do want to do is I want it to collide, because right now it's just not colliding with anything. For the purpose of testing, even though bullets are below the world, we're going to set it to foreground just so we can see it. Yeah, so now we're going to have to get into collisions. So under projectile, because this isn't going to be for everything, you know, there are some items that can pass through walls. We're going to actually use raycasts for collisions, because in the actual game, if you pull it up, it's not like a box collider. It's actually just a raycast, which is kind of interesting. I thought it would be a box collider, but it isn't. Let's get down to business. Under die, we're going to create a new void called check for collisions 2D. So we're going to want to raycast hit 2D, call it hit equals physics 2D dot raycast transform dot position direction speed times time dot delta time. That's going to be the distance, so it's checking speed times time dot delta time distance in front of it, because this is running every frame, so we're checking just as far as it might go in the next frame. And then the hittable mask dot value. Then we're going to say if hit dot collider doesn't equal null, we're going to have to make a new class. I would call this iShootable, but we already used that, so I'm going to call it iHittable. This is something that you can hit. Eventually, we're going to have both walls and enemies use this. So it's also an interface. I'm going to say void on hit vector 3 position. And then we're going to go back to projectile. iHittable equals hit dot collider dot get component iHittable. If hittable doesn't equal to null, so it exists, then hittable dot on hit, with putting in the hit dot point. So later when we get to like surfaces, we can have hit particles. So like when you shoot a wall, it's gonna put out like a different set of particles than if it was just out into the air, you know? And regardless of whether it's hittable or not, if we hit something, then we want it to die. Okay. I made the same mistake again. Put that in there, and see what type of thing we get. All right, we have to actually set the hittable mask. So we're going to say enemies and obstacles. Great. Now if we play, so it is hitting the wall, and it is dying upon hitting. And it may look kind of strange right now, as it is, like dying when the bottom part hits it, but you won't even notice it when we get to, you know, speeds like 30. Yep. Yeah. Cool. All right. Now what we have to do is let's get some muzzle flashes and some impact particles. So first thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to make some particle effects. Let's create a particle system, and this one we're gonna call it muzzle flash, or polar star muzzle flash. So the emission, so the shape, we're gonna actually just want it to come out like that. And for emission, we're gonna want 1. We're gonna want a burst of 1, and just none over time. Maybe let's move it over here so it's a little easier to see. Yeah. So under render, we're gonna actually have a texture sheet animation. We're gonna want the material to be sprites default and sprites. So let's add a new sprite, and we're gonna look for the polar star muzzle flash. Okay, it's over here, but it doesn't seem to be sprited out, so I think we're gonna have to do this one by hand. Put one like this, 16 by 16, caret 2. Get it from the middle. There we go, caret 3, 16 by 16. Click from the corner, put it out. 16 by 16. And one last one. 16 by 6. Oop. This one's 17. Might be too long on this side. There we go. Oh, this one's too short, so we're gonna move that one over, and there we go. Sweet. So now we hit apply, close it out, go to our muzzle flash, and we're gonna want to find our polar stars. So it's gonna be under caret 2, add another one, caret 3, add another one, another 2 actually, caret 4, and caret 5. Then we're going to want to lower the lifetime to say 0.2, lower the duration to like 0.5. Okay, that looks pretty good. That looks good to me, honestly. So we can just put that under the projectiles for the polar star prefab. Polar star muzzle flash, and delete it from here. Make sure under here that the positions are 0, just in case, and we want to get rid of looping. Okay, so next order of business is under projectile. We're gonna have another thing under here called particle system muzzle flash. We're going to initialize that in shoot. And then under die, we're just going to say muzzle flash dot play. And it's going to play on awake because it's going to be attached anyway. Cool. So we just have to attach it to this to play it on awake. Put that under there. Make sure it's 0, 0, 0. And then we'll hit apply. Delete this. Play it. See what we get. Okay. So we are seeing an issue here. And the issue here is that it's attached. It's a world particle. So let's open that up. Let's go to muzzle flash, and we're going to actually want to set this from simulation space from local to world. There we go. Now we can hit apply. Close it up. Delete it. And play. So it is playing the particle, but it's not dying. Okay, I see what the problem is. We actually want the particle to be part of the object itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this component, but delete this. Yeah. And we'll just add it as a new component here. Paste component as new. And then we'll just delete this prefab. And bring in this component as it is. Delete this. Go to guns. Make sure to reset the prefab because we deleted the old one. Now if we play, let's see what type of effect we get. There we go. That is what we want. It honestly fucking looks like the polar star now. We want to make sure that the particles are on another sorting layer, or they're on the foreground. Sorting layer, foreground. There we go. Okay, so the next order of business is when we hit obstacles, we want those obstacles to have a specific particle, and not like the normal muzzle flash. We're going to have a whole new script under world, call it surface. So surface is going to inherit from mono behavior and hittable. And it's going to be very simple. We're just going to have a public game object called surface hit particles and a public void on hit 3 position, and we're going to instantiate the surface hit particles at position with a quaternion dot identity. Okay. So under honestly, we can delete the muzzle flash particles because we already have that underneath the polar star bullet. So you can just delete that. Under prefabs, let's create a new folder. Call it, I don't know, particles. For just general particles. So we're going to create a new particle system. Same way, no shape. And the emission is going to be 1. No loop. And set to like 0.5. Put it over here. Texture sheet animation. Sprites. So which one are we going to want? Let's go back to, I think it's under caret. It's this one. It's this one right here. Let's do the same thing. Okay, so it goes from 6, 7, 9, 10. Sweet. Apply, we'll close it out. This particle system, just call it surface hit particles. And so there's 4 frames. Caret 6, caret 7, caret 9, caret 10. If we restart the effect, oh, right, because we want it to be sprite's default, and we want the lifetime to be 0.2. Restart. Great. So we'll just drag that under particles. Under grid for tile map, we're going to create a surface, and we'll give it the surface hit particles right here. And we're going to want to go to projectile, and to make sure that it doesn't play both projectiles, we're actually going to take in a bool for die. Say bool surface hit, and here we're going to say, I mean, if we're hitting something, then it's dying in a true way. It's false. Then we're going to say if surface hit, because the reason it's false here is because it's dying due to a timeout, which means it's going to be dying, out in the open. It just died by itself. It didn't hit anything. But if it died by hitting something, then that means we hit a surface, all this shit happened, blah, 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 and we're going to want to not play the muzzle flash. So, cross your fingers. Let's hope this works. Okay. Oh, I must have gotten it backwards. My bad. Yeah, we want to do that when a surface wasn't hit. That's going to be better. So let's play. Okay, sweet. So when we hit a surface, it does that. When we don't, it just plays the muzzle flash again. We're going to want the surface hit particles to also be on the foreground. So we're going to say, oops, foreground. Now if we play, it should be working great. And I know I said before that bullets aren't supposed to be on the foreground, but I think they are. But we can check. Shit. Yeah, so that is going to be it for projectiles. There is one more thing we can do, and that's this fucking bat. So the bat right now isn't giving off any projectiles, but we can change that. So let's create a new particle system. We're not going to be like hurting the bat or anything this time around. No animal cruelty. We're just going to pretend we're just going to have some blood particles. There we go. It's a little big though. Say set the size to 0.5. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Maybe we can pump up the numbers to like 8. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, so we're gonna put that into particles, couple of particles. Gonna delete it. Make sure that this is also 0, 0, 0. Not really necessary, but just, you know, just a precaution. We'll give it a surface. It's not going to use surface. The enemy is later going to inherit this directly. Now if we play it, now we can shoot around. Oh, it's super zoomed out for some reason. Shoot different things like that. Shoot the bat, it starts bleeding. Sick. And eventually it's gonna bleed and die. I know I keep saying that, but we are gonna get around to killing this bat. I promise you. Next episode. I promise you. Next episode. But yeah, that's it for this time though. Thanks for watching. Particles look pretty great. The projectiles look pretty cool. Everything's looking great. See you guys next time. Hopefully I can get better from this flu and put out a more regular video stream. Yeah, thanks for watching.